Hey guys, what's going on? This is another Airsoft Dude 1 production. Today we're going to be doing a tabletop overview of a bunch of different things. So today's topic is going to be on sights or optics. Everything from a high power magnified scope that would be kind of your hunting scope style, all the way down to your no power magnification and to sights on pistols and whatnot. So first we're going to start out with the cheap end, and then we're going to move to the more expensive end. So as you can see over here to my right, I've got a Aim Tactical or Aim Precision whatever, AIM is the company name. They make these decently cheap Aimpoint style sights. Now this has been painted matte black by me because the original black was kind of shiny, I guess you could say, so I painted it matte black. But if you look inside, it has a green reticle or a red reticle. Depending on which side you turn it to, it does have these nice flip-up screen protectors, I guess you could call them, dust flaps. And then if you look at it, there is 6 modes of brightness. Obviously one mode for each what do you want to call it, brightness setting. So it does have a very firm click, which is nice, but like I said, there's no magnification, and it weighs a good almost pound and a half. All of these pretty much run on your standard 2032 button watch style battery, except for the Elcan Specter DR, which we'll talk about, and also the XPS EOTech. We'll talk about that later. So this doesn't give you any magnification. It does have a mirrored lens, as you can see here, and then the back is nothing special. So this is just kind of your entry level, along with your reflex style iron sight, or not iron sight, but red dot. This is your standard red dot. These two are your cheapest. That's going to cost you about $40. This will cost you between, or this style will cost you between $15 to $30. Let's see, is this the one with the battery in it? No, it's not. But it's got 4 modes of on, I guess you could call it. You've got a dot, a crosshair with a circle, and then a circle with a dot in the middle of it. And then this does have red and green as well. Problem with these are there's not much glass in here, so this gets shot and the BB will go right through it. And then pretty much now you just have a new sling mount, and this is also an AIM brand, so we're going to put that down. Okay, next we're going to move over to a Glock. Now a lot of pistols nowadays are having what they call doctor sights for them. This is a doctor sight that you can get on eBay. This cost me about $45 on eBay from a company that sells on eBay. As you guys probably have figured out by now that I buy a lot of things off eBay because it's cheaper. So it has the mount, and then it has the doctor sight. If you added this doctor sight to your Specter DR, then you would probably have a Specter DR, not a Elcan Specter, but you would have an Elcan Specter DR. We'll talk about a bunch of those things later. So this is a nice sight. It's not the best for airsoft though. Also the USPs have a style for them, and the new FN45s have a series of iron or red dot doctor sights now coming out for them. As you can see, this is a Glock 19. KSC has a illuminator / laser on the front. Also runs on a CR123A battery. This runs on a 2032 style watch button battery. This is nice. It's really just there for look. It does have a nice doctor trade on it with a little owl, but it kind of lacks in the accuracy because your reticle's way up here and your BB or your round lands way out there. Obviously for real steel it's much better than that, but this is kind of just for look in airsoft. So I'm going to set this down and get this out of the way. Now we're going to move over to an Aimpoint. This is an AIM, yet again, because AIM is a decently cheap brand. I have this on a 45-degree offset mount because it goes on this gun right here. It goes on my DMR, so that I go from a 3 to 9 power scope to a 0 magnification red dot just by rotating my gun here. As you can see, this hasn't been painted to this camo scheme, but this has. This also runs on a button style 2032 style battery. This just has a 1 to 10 rotation dial at the top, and that's, like I said, pretty standard. This is going to run you somewhere between $20 to $30. This is a kind of a knockoff of the Aimpoint T1. This obviously doesn't have a riser on it. So now I don't have an Aimpoint T1 currently. It's actually the only sighting system that I don't have right now. But the Aimpoint T1, what that is pretty much a dot, a 0 magnification. Generally it will have a 1-inch riser, and it'll sit up a little bit higher so you can clear PEC 15 boxes if you have them on your rails, or clear iron sights. The only problem with those styled sights are you have to get really high iron sights if you want iron sights that'll be able to fit and be able to see past the T1. And like I said, that's called an Aimpoint T1. Now I'm going to set this aside. Now I'm going to move over to what you get into your more experienced. All of the things that I've shown you thus far, except for the Glock, is kind of your beginner 0 magnifications. You just have it on there because, one, it looks cool, and like everybody in airsoft, you gotta have a gun that looks cool. Cool. So I'm gonna move over into the EOTech style. Now this is an L3 EOTech XPS. Normally your EOTechs will have a little bit longer body on them so they can accommodate different battery styles. I like this one because it runs on a CR123 Alpha battery or CR123A, which I do have rechargeable ones, so I don't have to pay that enormous fee for, you know, 2 of them costing like $9. No, I got 6 of them for about $9 to $10 shipped to my house. Got the $1 charger, boom. Now I never have to pay for those again. So what I have here, I'm going to actually collapse my bipod and get this gun, or I'm just going to grab this gun and move it out of the way. But if you look at this rifle right here, this is my more of a CQB AR-15 style rifle, or an M4 style rifle. You can see that I have this 3 times magnifier. Now this will work with the Aimpoint T1s as long as you have the right mount for this and the right mount for this. Those will line up together. Also with a bunch of your your actual aim points, a 3 times magnifier will line up with them as well. Now that's getting into your really heavy kind of a gun setup. This is a really good CQB to field. You know, if your field is indoor and outdoor, this is a really good setup, because there's a little silver tab on the left side of the rifle. I pull down on that, and then the 3 times magnifier kicks out of the way. They call it a flip to side or a kick off or something like that. Now I can engage targets that are very close to me, and I don't have to be zooming in like, oh, okay, all I see is their face. Now I can actually see their whole body. So the cool thing about these are my gun hand, or my trigger finger, can still stay on the gun, and I can still support the gun. I go from a solid shooting stance. I can knock it down with my thumb. Just come back real quick and do that. I can do it multiple different ways. I can hit it with my palm. I can go down. Cool thing also, it's the same kind of a principle as the 45-degree offset aim point. Is if I do need to look at something really quick, I can just rotate over 45 degrees. Now I've just got pretty much a telescope on the side of my gun. The EOTechs are awesome. If you can ever find a real steel EOTech, I have a real steel EOTech on my real steel AR. But this is a replica EOTech because nobody's going to spend $400 on a sight for an airsoft gun, unless you're that crazy rich. But you flip this over, now you've got a scoped in 3 times magnified red dot, and then you flip it out of the way, and now you're into a 0 magnification, or 1 magnification, sorry, pretty much just a reflex. Now the cool thing about the real steel EOTechs are that they have what's called parallaxing, so that means that the reticle bounces off a bunch of mirrors, so no matter which way you look at it, the reticle is always on 0. Now obviously your cheaper replicas aren't going to have that, because that would be really expensive, and then now you might as well just buy the real steel one. But you can zero these in. All of the sights thus far, except for the Glock one, you can zero in to a degree. The EOTech is the most zero friendly. As you can see, you've got a bunch of dials over here for windage and elevation, and then you've got the 3 times magnifier, which does have a, as you can see right here, have a Allen key that you can adjust. And then, like I said, I can rotate up, or I can reach across, so I can stay on the gun. If I'm in a milsim and I'm in a hot situation, now I can go over and I can go back without taking my hand off the trigger, and I can stay engaged in the firefight while I'm doing this. So that's one really cool option to being able to have a scoped gun and a CQB gun in one package. You don't have to take anything off. It's not real heavy. It's still maneuverable, and it can get out of your way if you want it to. So that's the 3 times flipped aside. So I highly suggest this setup. I'm going to get this out of the way. So the next one that I'm going to talk about here is this is a Phantom Gear Elcan Specter DR. Now the Elcan Specter DRs are the really expensive sight. The real steel ones cost about $2,000 to $3,000. This one is a replica. You can buy this Phantom Gear one on eBay, and on, actually I'm currently selling mine on eBay. However, you can get this on eBike for around $125 to $150, depending on sales and whatnot. The cool thing about it is you can put a honeycomb on it. Honeycomb is pretty much just, well, it looks like a honeycomb on the end, and it protects your BB. They also are called kill flashes and whatnot. So another optic that I do not have is an ACOG, or Advanced Combat Optic, and then I forgot what the G stands for. Somebody will remind me in the comments below. However, if you look through the sight of this, it'll have a very similar reticle as a ACOG, and it will appear that way. The cool thing about this is, in one optic that's waterproof, apologize for the neighbor's dog, but in one setup you can go from 1 to 4 magnifications just by flipping this little lever over, which is awesome, because like I said, the same thing as the EOTech 3 times magnifier setup. You can go from CQB, you can go from seeing exactly what your eyes see to a scoped in telescope style optic within like 1 second. They're not super adjustable. You've got a dial down here for your up and down, and then you've got a dial here that moves a nut back and forth for your right to left windage. So another cool thing is, if you look at the top, they have what's called iron sights on top. So the scope is so big that if you put it on your gun, you're probably not going to have a backup iron. The cool thing about this is if you're in a hot zone, if you're in a hot CQB situation, you can go from a 4 times magnification to just moving up a little bit, and you see down these irons, and you know where that round's going to go, or you know where that BB is going to go. So these are cool. Like I said, these use a little bit smaller of a battery. I don't know what it is. I think it's the 2016 style battery, also in a waterproof housing. This has a 1 to, I believe, 11 yeah, 1 to 11 brightness settings. The only downside to really any of the optics that I've brought forth thus far is the EOTech. The EOTech replicas tend to be very dark, and the brightness isn't that great for during daytime. At nighttime, you can kick the brightness down. The way you can do that is, if we can turn it on there. Okay, so now it's on green. I can push the up arrow and it'll turn up. I can push the down arrow and it'll turn down. I push the NV button in the middle and it'll switch to red. Push the NV button and it'll turn to green again. So very easy to navigate, whereas these style, you have to rotate this thing around until you get to your desired setting, and also rotate it around until you get to your desired color. Same thing with this. This is just solid red, and the same thing with this. So with the push of 3 buttons, it's got a very friendly interface that you can operate on. Like I said, it runs on a CR123 alpha battery, which you can get rechargeable ones of. And then you've got a EOTech shroud that you can put a laser on, that you can put a bunch of different cool things on. And then I'm going to move this out of the way again. So, cool thing, yet again, your hand stays on the gun. You can rotate over. Sorry I don't have this mounted to a rifle right now, but you can kick this over and you can kick it back and get back on the gun without taking your trigger finger off. However, the only bad thing about this is it's really heavy. It weighs like 3 pounds because there's a big piece of glass in there that rotates over and rotates back. So there's effectively 2 lenses in there. The cool thing about this is when you adjust the settings, it adjusts the whole tube. It doesn't adjust just one of them. But the downside to that is when you kick it into 4 times, it'll go from your 0 to about 4 mil dot, or like, sorry, 2 mil dots over and maybe 1 mil dot up to where your 0 is. But unless you have a super accurate gun like a Polar Star or a DMR, that's really not going to matter too much for you. Another cool thing is this has a very easy, quick detach system, and this will fit any rail system, you know, mil-spec rail system or a little bit off scale, because you can adjust these little knobs. And then the EOTech can do the same thing, whereas all of these, you pretty much just got a bolt that you screw in, and this bolt can come loose very easily. This has a bracket with 2 bolts, and then this has a little slide-off bracket, slide off of the top where the rear sight would be, so now you have no rear sight. Downside of this guy is it's really cheap. The little dead man switch that's in there, I've had to solder it like 3 times. It sucks. So now your last thing that we have to go over is your DMR sniper telescope style. Pretty much what this is this is a Leapers, which is a knockoff Leopold, which is a real steel sight. This is a knockoff Leopold 3 to 9 by 52. It's a big scope. If you look here, this is what you call a sunshade. Now, I keep that on there, one, because it makes it look a heck of a lot cooler, and it just looks bad, you know, with this big old scope on there. But the cool thing about this is when you're playing at a game, you know, normally you play through midday, and when you're sitting in the bush or sitting in the building or hanging out off the top of a roof or something, and the sun's straight above you, or, you know, just a little bit off, if that comes in, it totally washes out your sight picture. So the cool thing about this is you throw a sunshade on there, it extends out your shadow, I guess you could say, and now unless the sun is at, you know, your 12 o'clock, you're not going to get any of that sun washout. The downside is there's no iron sight on top, and there's no capability for you to have iron sights. That's why I have a 45-degree Aimpoint T1 replica that I can put right here. I just have this green laser on there because I was doing another video, which will be up shortly. So this is your minute adjustment for focus. This is your 3 to 9, so this is your magnifications. And then this is your yardage. because when you're going from 3 to 9 magnifications, that's a lot of glass moving back and forth in there. So you can go from 10 yards, 0, all the way out to, I believe it is 180 yards, and then it kicks into infinity. So if you know anything about cameras and whatnot, it's decently the same with your millimeters of adjustment and whatnot. The thing I really do like is this is a red or green scope. Let's see what it's on right now. That's green. The only problem with that is, you know, you've got your red and your green. Okay, that's cool. But when you're sitting there at night and you're using a sniper at a nighttime operation, I'm going to be a designated marksman at Milsim West Kazakh Offensive, which is coming up pretty soon. And this is my gun. And I'm not going to kick that in, because if I kick that green reticle in and I'm sitting there and I'm totally scoped in on a guy and I kick that over, that's going to wash out my night vision. Unless you're shooting at an illuminated target, don't use the illuminated reticle, because it'll kill your night vision. So especially if there's any wash on the side, and it's a replica scope, so there should be, or well, not should, but there will be. Cool thing, your windage and your elevation knobs are self-retaining, so you don't need a screwdriver to sit here and wrench it down. You adjust, and it has almost little ball bearings that click into different positions. So I have this zeroed. I can hit a man-sized target at roughly 100 yards with this. Yeah, I know. I'm putting a 0.32 gram round going at about 500 feet per second. Well, a 0.2 gram BB going at about 500 feet per second. However, 0.3 going at about 410, leaving my muzzle with a Prometheus barrel. I can hit a target, like I said, with the flat hop and everything, at about 109 yards. I can hit a trash can at 190 yards, and that's shorter than a person, but it's a little bit stockier. So this thing, since there's no recoil, it's not going to knock off. But all of these are for airsoft. You could use them for paintball, I guess, but I don't have too much experience in that. But you're not going to want to sit here and put these on real steel firearms, because they're not built for the recoil. That's why real steel sights are so much more expensive, because they have to deal with the recoil of being locked on a gun that's moving against a shoulder which is trying not to move. So this has been my kind of tabletop talk about video of different sights and what they can be used on. You know, like I said, these guys are your cheap entry ones. This is your more advanced Milsim scope, which is good for indoor and outdoor in one platform. Same thing goes for the EOTech. This is your big rifle scope. This is going to cost you about $125 for a good replica, somewhere in that ballpark. $175 to $125 in that range is where I'm going to price a good replica scope. So thanks guys for watching. This has been another Airsoft Dude 1 production. If you guys want me to do any specific reviews about any of this stuff, hit me up with a comment in the box below. Go ahead and throw me some subscriptions. I've been going up, and I appreciate all you guys for subscribing and getting me out there more. So this has been another Airsoft Dude 1 production. I'm out. Stay tuned for more.